What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Today I want to do a video talking about player projections in comparison to their true overalls in the Madden 22 scouting update. Now, one thing that I'll say before we hop into this video is that it seems like there is not a lot of a change in terms of player value in comparison to player projections within the game. I thought that one of the main sticking points of the new update to Madden 22 scouting was that draft classes were going to be different. You would have players that are random overalls in various different rounds. And I thought that the point was that those players could rise and fall on the draft board depending on storylines and things like that throughout the season, and it's not always going to quite remain exactly the same way that you see it whenever you first see the list of prospects within the game. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this and take a look at what exactly we're talking about here so you guys get a good idea for how to establish who you want to draft in this Madden 22 scouting update and who you should be going after in terms of scouting. The first thing to talk about here is the player projection system. So players are projected in a very similar way than they have been in the past. So you will get players projected as, top 5, round 1 to 2, round 3 to 4. Before, they would always basically get a specific round, or they would get, early first round, late first round, that type of stuff. And so now they've switched around the verbiage a little bit. I've made a video talking about why the new verbiage is a little bit inconsistent and weird the way they utilize it, but we'll move on from that and let's talk about these projections themselves. So, going through here, you'll see that we have quite a few quarterbacks projected in round 1 and round 1 and 2, early round guys. So, in theory, if this was unrealistic, we would see all of these guys being the higher overall players within the draft class. We would see them being in the high 70s, something like that, in corroboration with the way randomly generated draft classes have been for forever. And we'll see the same thing. We have a bunch of round 1 to 2 running backs there, no good fullbacks, quite a few wide receivers that are pretty solid, and we're just going to look at the offensive side of the ball, so keep these numbers in mind. We have one potential top talent at tight end and a couple of mid-round talents. And then across the offensive line, we have a couple of good left tackles, not very many good left guards, honestly only a couple of draftable ones. Nobody at the center position that projects out to be very good. Only a couple at the right guard position, and then at the right tackle position we do have a couple of good players. So, the point here being, whenever I go into edit players and actually look at this draft class, if they did the changes that they were supposed to do, and they made this more random, the way that they were supposed to make it, and the way that drafting should be, you should see that all of those early round projected players are not the high overalls. You should see some of those players in rounds 2, 3, 4, and the day 3 prospects. You should see all of those guys potentially being mixed in as higher overall players. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what's actually going on here. We'll start with the quarterback position. So far, if I'm taking a look at this, I would say that this looks very similar to prior years and prior scouting. So in terms of Madden, on first look, at first glance, I'm seeing that the scouting, the way that the draft classes are formulated and everything of that nature has not changed, because you have your first round projected players being up here in the 70s. You do have one potential bust that's a 69 overall, but that's really not that low. And we have all these guys up here that were projected early round picks to be in the 70s or around a 70 overall. So that's pretty consistent with what we've seen in the past. And in all honesty, we should probably be seeing a couple of these guys, if this were realistic, being the lower overall players. And then we should see some guys that are down here potentially being in the 70s, potentially moving up the draft board later on into the season, and things of that nature. However, we're clearly not getting that at the quarterback position. Let's go ahead and jump through a couple other positions. We can see that at the halfback position, it is very top-heavy. Again, we are seeing all the 70s up near the top, and then the overalls go down as you scroll down through. We have one potential nice find here, hidden gem, in the 7th round. At fullback, we have nobody that's above a 65, 66 overall, as was projected on that screen. Same thing here with wide receivers. We have quite a few early round players that project out to be 70s. And then as you go down, you're not really seeing any players mixed in with any higher talent. At tight end, we have that one early round tight end. And then the position that I really want to look at, because we talked about offensive line, there's a couple guys at the top of each of these positions. The position that I really want to look at is the center position, because that's going to be telling, because that was the one position that said it really didn't have very many players with any skill. And so we're going to see here, we don't have a single player above a 70. In reality, in my opinion, if this was to be a realistic draft class, we would see at least one of these players turn out to be a solid NFL center or a solid NFL lineman. We should see them be around a 70 plus overall, even though they're projected to be low round players, round 5, round 6, round 7. So what I'm saying here is that the scouting update changed the face of what we do with scouting. It changed the way that we scout these players, but it did not fundamentally change the draft classes themselves. It did not fundamentally change the way the draft classes are developed randomly. They are developed in the same exact manner with all of the top talent near the top. So, what implication does this have on your scouting and your franchise modes? Well, to be very forward with you and honest with you, the importance that this has on your scouting and your drafting within franchise mode is that you're going to scout and draft in a similar manner to what you have done in the past. You're going to focus your scouting on the players that are already projected as top 5 players. You're going to focus on the guys that are already projected at the top of the board here as round 1 players, round 1 and 2 players. That basically does not change for us now, because we know that at this current point, at the release of the Madden 22 scouting update, nothing has fundamentally changed with the drafts themselves, with the player pool itself. And whenever we are getting our initial projection for these players, it is projecting them out to be basically exactly where they should be drafted and where their overall stands as a player. And we saw exactly that when we went into the overall draft class. Corey Ross was the highest overall player within the draft class, and he is projected the number 1 talent. Now, like I said, if they were doing what they said they were planning to do, and they were giving us what we want as franchise fans, then we would see that not be the case. All of these guys up here at the top of the draft board should not automatically be the highest overall players in the draft class. If we are going based on how the NFL actually works, only 1 or 2 of these players should actually be good. A couple of these guys should probably be busts, and you should probably see a much wider variety on players being found that are good, that can burst onto the scene within later rounds. So my final point here to you guys is, whenever you are scouting positions, and whenever you are deciding where to assign your scouts, which regions to assign your scouts to, and everything of that nature, make sure you first check which positions actually have projected talent at those positions. Because, for example, if I wanted to find a center for my team, I'm not going to find it here in the draft class, and they're telling me that right away based on all of these projections that it is just giving to me for free. I've done nothing to earn these projections on these players. I literally have not. The game is giving me free detail on how good this position is or isn't. I don't actually have to do anything to earn it, which I thought was the point of the update. Besides that, though, that tells me I should focus my scouting elsewhere. If I want to find an offensive lineman, then I should be focusing on the position that has the most early round grades, which in this case would be left tackle. And then maybe I can move that left tackle to a different position, because it's telling me right from the get-go which position to scout. It's giving you all the information that you're going to need in order to make a determination on where to focus your scouting. Focus your scouting on the positions that have the most early round projections, because as of right now, at the release of this update, that's how it works, and that's how it's going to work. And I don't really see them making an update to change that, because they would have to fundamentally change the way that their draft classes are structured. And, as we know, they're not so inclined to do those types of things. So, with all of that being said, go ahead and leave your feedback down in the comment section below. Let me know what your experiences have been early on with the new scouting system in the game. Does it really add any value to you guys? Does it really add anything to the game when we know that the draft classes are structured in the same way that they always have been? If you pick a player that is projected as a first-round talent, you're more than likely going to get a first-round overall player. As I've seen in multiple draft classes, whenever you go in to edit the draft class, the top players are going to be the highest overall. We can see here that the top 5 projected players are all above a 73 overall. We're all looking at high overall players, and 3 of them are 79 overall players. That's absolute madness to think about, because when we go down to the later rounds, you're not going to see any players of a similar caliber thrown in there. You'll rarely see a 70-something overall once you get down here into the 3rd or 4th round. And honestly, the talent should be much more well mixed, because we get a lot of players that come out from later rounds that actually add value to NFL teams, and we get a lot of busts in the 1st round. You guys can see here, and this is the poor reflection on what they're doing in terms of attention to detail, that once we hit the 4th round, I don't believe we have a 70 overall player below this in the entire draft class. There's 171 at the middle of the 4th round. That's not a good reflection on what you can be doing with this draft class. That's just, in my opinion, like I said, a lack of attention to detail. So with all that being said, leave your feedback on the video. Let me know your experiences in the comment section below. Let me know if this this update really did anything for you guys, because early looks for me, I don't think it's adding a whole lot of value to the game. So let me know in the comment section. Leave a like on this video. If you disagree with me, leave a dislike on this video. Like I said, comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll see you in the next one, and I hope you have a good one.